Carole, there's been a bombshell shocker for Meghan.
This is just another humiliation. I'm laughing at them. I'm thinking how ludicrous the pair of them are. She's selling a fake lifestyle. She's managed to rob them. She's made them look ridiculous and stupid and not saleable. She's managed to trash that. So everything this woman touches turns to dog dirt. Nothing was ever enough for this woman. She comes into the royal family, which bent over backwards for her. She just threw it back in their face.
He looks up at her and says, "You can go now."
If true, that is horrific.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Expresso, and thank you to the Pure Gold Company for sponsoring this episode. Carole.
Yes.
Meghan Markle. New
Yes.
nightmare. This is the final
Before
nail.
that,
Go on.
how about hello? How are you? You know what I mean?
We're jumping straight in, Carole.
Oh, okay.
People are already clicking off this episode.
Are
now,
they?
Carole.
Okay, right, go on then.
Deary me.
Straight in.
Carole, this is the final nail in the coffin of Meghan Markle's Hollywood career. One of the most embarrassing stories I've heard in a long time.
Yeah.
She's not going to come back from this. Meghan and Harry's first executive produced movie, Cookie Queens,
Yeah.
is about a bunch of Girl Scouts trying to sell cookies,
Yeah.
right? Has bombed at the box office. Carole, tell us more about this.
It hasn't just bombed. It's barely registered a tweak at it. In its opening weekend, right? It brought in £257,000. Now let me put that into perspective for you. Spider-Man in its opening weekend, £687 million. But Meghan couldn't even get to 300 grand. Now, are we surprised? Not in the slightest. This movie, it's like a documentary, and it's called Cookie Queens. And it's made by Archwell Productions in cahoots with a bit of Hollywood money, whatever. But it's dross. It is bombed. Now, which is weird considering there are 1 million Girl Scouts in America, plus their mums. There's 2 million people. You would have thought that even they might have gone to see it, but they've not bothered. And what is really incredible is that another film that was released on the same weekend. It's called Catfest 26, and it's a whole load of clips of cats. That made $500,000 in its first weekend. Now, put that into perspective. That only went across 226 cinemas, and it made $500,000.
And their film went
Meghan's
across 446.
446 cinemas, and it made 257 grand. So the consensus is it's pants. Nobody wants to see it, not even the Girl Scouts that it's about. Now, I can see why a film company might have thought this could work, because there are 1 million Girl Scouts in America, and they sell 2 million packets of cookies every year, and they make 600 million quid every year for charities, various charities. So you would think it could work. But that's in the hands of someone that knows what they're doing and that doesn't interfere in things that they don't understand. But Archwell and Meghan, of course, they have made this. She's put her cack hand on it. And, of course, it's bombed. So, there's a lesson here, isn't there? Stop interfering in stuff that you can't do and that you don't understand. Everything this woman touches turns to dog dirt. She's got her as ever range. Her jams at $45 for 3 little pots of her jam. Apparently, I read something yesterday that in Netflix in the big warehouses, they're having to give it away to staff because no one's buying it. They've got huge backlogs of her staff. No one wants it. They don't want the flour sprinkles. They don't want the jams. They don't want the homemade honey because they think that's pants as well.
Yep.
So everything this woman touches goes to hell. And I think there's probably a reason for that. The thing is, when she was in Suits, she was an actress. She was half decent. I mean, she wasn't terrible. But when she was in that, someone else writes your lines and someone tells you what to do. And she wasn't a big enough star at that point for her to argue with directors who would have just said on your bike if she started to interfere. So when she's being directed by someone else, she can be okay. But when she's in charge, nothing is okay. So, this is proof positive if ever we need it, that America has fallen out of love with Meghan. They think she's an idiot. I don't even think they probably think about her that much, hence they didn't bother to go to the cinema to see her film. But, it's just, she's incapable of she keeps on telling us how creative she is. The whole point about the Scouts is that they're taught to be, the whole point of the Scouts in America is they're taught to be bosses, they're taught to make decisions, they're taught how to make their way in the world. So you can see why Meghan even might want to do it, because that's her kind of mantra, isn't it? And she's certainly made her way in the world. Not with talent, it has to be said, but anyway, she has. And you can see why she might think, oh, this will make money. But she has no creative abilities. She has no creative talents. But out of it, and let the people who are good at it. Because you can imagine, can't you? Whoever the director was on this movie, this documentary movie, whatever it is, you can see they'd have an idea of where they wanted to go. And you could see her every day saying, oh, why don't we do it like this? And why don't we do it like that?
It's like you've probably been in this scenario a million times. When your boss comes to you with an idea, and you're sort of low enough down the pecking order, or they're senior enough where you have to just kind of grin and go, that's a great idea. Yeah. And you're making a mental note of, I'm not doing it.
I'm not doing that. But the thing is, when you're making a film, the poor director would have had to have done what she said, because it wouldn't get made otherwise. And you can, she could have flammed her, and the director could have flammed her and said it was a great idea, but translated onto film, obviously a terrible idea, because because the Girl Scouts in America are really popular. They're a big thing. And she's managed to rob them of their popularity. She's made them look ridiculous and stupid and not saleable. God knows what it's going to do for the sales of the biscuits, because, if they're selling now 2 million quid, 2 million quid a year is worth it. No, 200 million quid a year worth of biscuits. If they're selling that many now, I mean, that's going to plummet now, isn't it? They're going to say, we're not going to buy them biscuits anymore.
Well, for me, Carole, it's just the whole idea of making a movie about Girl Scouts. Fair play to Girl Scouts. Do a nice job. Make the cookies. Charity. I can't say anyone in their right mind will be rushing down to a cinema to watch a film about Girl Scouts.
Because, I see, you're not getting how, it wasn't such a terrible idea, because Girl Scouts are mega popular in the States. It's not like the Scouts here. It's not like anywhere else. They are a big deal in the States, and people are proud to be part of the movement. And she's managed to trash that. So, and I know I'm not the sort of person who'd be going down to the cinema to watch a film about, four Scouts making biscuits. I'm not bothered. I'm not interested. No. But you'd think the 1 million Girl Scouts in America might be interested, but they clearly haven't gone to this movie. Because if all of them had gone, it would have made more than 257 grand in a weekend.
And on that, Carole, I mean, the sort of secret in the film business is if you're making a movie, you have to make basically double your budget to even break even, because of all the money spent on marketing and all of that. So she's made £257,000 off the back of this movie in the box office. So if it's cost anything more than £125,000,
and it will have.
It definitely will have.
It will have.
Definitely will have.
I mean, I'm looking if I can see any figures here. I can't, but you can count. This is what they call a lost leader, isn't it, in the trade?
Exactly. They've lost a ton of money. Is anyone in Hollywood going to want to touch these two of a barge pole again?
No. I mean, the thing is, I'm wondering why she didn't go back into acting when she left here, because says she wasn't half bad at that, and you can't deny she's a good-looking girl. But I think she thought she was too big important for that. I think the idea of her going back and taking instructions and orders from a director and from a producer and being part of a team and a crew where she wasn't the major star, I think that she probably thought that was beneath her. But I think there's going to come a time in the not too distant when everything is going to dry up for her, because this is just another humiliation. The only films we're interested in watching with Meghan are the ones where her and Harry are living their own soap opera. I want to watch that. It's mesmerising, because I'm laughing at them. I'm thinking how ludicrous the pair of them are. I'm thinking, who do they think they are? And while I'm watching them and thinking, awful, it's still mesmerising television. You can't help but watch it. But look at him when he went and made the film on polo. Something he's very good at. Do you remember that? I mean, no one watched that either. That was on television. Just don't do it.
Okay, real talk for just a second. Think about what you're actually going to leave behind one day. Not your Netflix password, not the cologne you bought on sale, and definitely not those ugly slippers from Granny. But tax-free, private physical gold coins that are recognised worldwide as the ultimate store of wealth. Well, who wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of that? The Pure Gold Company, voted the UK's best gold broker, specialises in tax-free physical gold from the Royal Mint. They'll guide you one-to-one at your pace with no jargon and no pressure, whether it's a single coin or a whole collection. Then it's delivered discreetly and fully insured to your door or stored in a secure professional vault. You can download their comprehensive guide to buying gold by visiting their website, see the link in the description, and tell them JJ sent you.
Well, it's another terrible idea, and like you say, but at least with some of their stuff, like the whole at home with with Love Meghan.
Well,
watching her cut that bread.
Yeah. I've got to tell you, it's a little bit mesmerising. It's a little bit mesmerising. No, it's not awe-inspiring, but she is, because she looks so good and because her clothes are gorgeous. By the way, we should point out that the jewellery she wears on her left hand, the wedding ring, the engagement ring and the Cartier bracelets, that's worth more than her movie made in that opening weekend. That should be pointed out. See, I'm mesmerised. I watch her jewellery. I look at her jewellery. I look at her clothes. I'm thinking, where's that shirt from? But I know for a fact she's not making the bath salts. I know for a fact she's not collecting the honey from the hives. I know that everything that she's making has been prepped and sorted out by someone else. And what you have to understand is that, she's selling a fake lifestyle. I don't believe she lives that lifestyle. I don't believe anyone lives that perfect lifestyle. Interesting story about her recently. Martha Stewart, who is the homemaking guru of the planet, not just America, who has monetized those skills and become maybe she's even a billionaire now, but she's super rich. Martha Stewart was saying that she was at a do recently and Meghan was at the same do. Now, wouldn't you think that when the queen of the homemakers was at the show, wouldn't you think this wannabe might walk over to her and say, hey, you've done a pretty good job here. Give me some tips. What should I be doing? Martha Stewart said she steered completely clear, that Meghan came nowhere near. Now, that tells me that Meghan is not a woman who is prepared to learn, who's prepared to humble herself. If I was in a room with Martha Stewart, I would be straight over to ask her how she keeps her hydrangeas looking so good in her garden, because they're fantastic, okay? And I try to grow them and they don't work. So I'd want to know how she did it. If I meet a famous journalist, someone who's like huge, I want to know how they did it, where they've been, what they've done. I want to hear, because even at my old age, I'm going to learn something of them. And that's what Meghan should have done with Martha Stewart. Martha Stewart has made multi-millions out of homewares, sheets, bedding, cups, saucers, potters. That's not to mention the cooking and the homemaking and all the rest of it.
Well, the problem with that, Carole, was Meghan didn't want to steer anywhere near her because Martha Stewart had previously said something sort of faintly critical about her Meghan's cooking show. But like you say, have the sort of modesty to kind of be like, well, look, Martha Stewart probably knows what she's talking about.
Yes.
Maybe I should go over to her, be polite and be like, look, no, I'm not bothered about it. It's like, I've got a thick skin. Just tell me what you know.
Yes,
Give me a bit of a lesson in how to make this work. How can I make season 2 actually watchable and useful?
If Meghan's decisions on who to talk to were made by the people who criticised her, there wouldn't be anyone on the planet who she'd be able to talk to, would there?
No.
I mean, there'd be nobody left. Who would she be able to talk to if she blacklisted everyone who'd badmouthed her? Because I think everyone has, almost.
Yeah.
And quite rightly. And I think this is just going to be like another massive red flag for anyone who might have been thinking of employing her, saying don't touch it, because everything she touched turns us to horse manure, so don't do it.
Well, I should say, Carole, the reviews are more mixed than you'd believe from the box office.
Oh.
Yeah. So Variety said they were critical. Wow. And this is quite a big blow for them because Variety is very much the Hollywood industry Bible.
It's the Bible, yeah.
They said it's too much of a reality show ramble. So that's not good from them. San Francisco Chronicle called it staged. But it does have a 92% positive rating on Rotten Tomatoes, which basically collates all of the critics' reviews. So actually the critical reception has been pretty good. Well, you
say that, but that's not reflected in the amount of money the film made.
Well,
so and it's going to make even less money now when people read that it only made $257,000 in its first weekend, because they're going to say, well, why bother? It's obviously pants. Let's not go. And critics, I do think you've got to take what a lot of critics say with a pinch of salt. I mean, Variety, not with a pinch of salt. They know what they're talking about, but a large majority of them do not. Critics, they talk. It's all about personal taste, and I don't quite know why they'd want to give her a leg up. I'm not entirely sure why, but I just know it's going to be pants. As I say, I just know it. You just know everything she touches, because she thinks she knows more than she knows, and that is that's a huge cross to bear in life if you're not prepared to learn from people who know. And I think, how old is she now? 45 was her birthday this week. I think she should concentrate on going into areas where her looks matter, where the physique matters, because that is pretty perfect. I mean, I can't knock her for that.
Yeah.
The face is pretty good. Do that, Meghan.
Do a Suits revival.
Yeah,
right.
Do it. Well, I'm not
Focus
even
on
sure.
that.
See, that's the trouble. Her ego is so huge now. She's not going to go back, and she wouldn't make a movie again unless she was the star and unless it was a big blockbuster.
Yeah, which is not going to happen.
She's not big enough for that.
No way. No. Another damaging blow, Carole, for Meghan and Harry. The reputation has been nuked.
Yeah.
Daily Mail, Sarah Vine, released this bombshell piece going back over Brexit. What happened when Harry and Meghan decided to sever from the royal family? Now, there's some new anecdotes in there, Carole, and one of them has genuinely made my jaw drop. So, Meghan Markle was apparently, in 2015, overheard berating staff at the Soho House in Istanbul. For those who don't know, Soho House is basically this kind of fancy members club, which has fallen on, I would say, harder times recently. Less exclusive.
Yes, it
But
has.
back then in 2015, big deal, right?
Was the place to be.
So she was on a freebie weekend at Soho House in Istanbul, and she was apparently berating the staff because her goodie bag wasn't sufficiently lavish.
It's this kind of rich, isn't it? This is a woman who's gone to stay in a 5-star hotel free of charge for the weekend because it was the opening of it. And I've been to some of these candidates who are great big Hollywood stars. Then bear in mind at the time she was not. And you get everything free. Every drink you have is free. Every meal you have is free. You get treated like a king or a queen. And she goes there and says that the freebie bag was not good enough for her. Who the hell is she? If I had been organising that party, I would have chucked her out. I would have. Because the people, it always, when you go to Hollywood and these Hollywood parties, they have all these goodie bags, and it always kind of galls me a bit that the richest people on the planet get given incredibly expensive things free. I mean, they don't need the goodie bags. Do you know what I mean? They just don't need them. So all those kind of Hollywood A-listers who were at that party, none of them needed a goodie bag. And the thing is, they're so used to getting them that you can't even buy their affection with them because they don't care. If it's not up to them, they go, "Ooh, I'll give it to my cousin, I'll give it to my nephew, give it to whoever." They don't care. They don't appreciate it because they already have so much. But Meghan should have appreciated it because back then she wasn't that big. She was in Suits, okay. But not everyone knew who Meghan Markle was back then.
No. What does it say about her personality that she treats, members of staff like that? She seems to just treat everyone who is seen as maybe beneath her with a certain contempt.
I remember when her and Harry first got together, and I remember when she came here and the engagement was announced, and the media were incredibly excited because we saw the potential of this. We saw that here was a woman, a woman of colour, who had married into one of the whitest, biggest institutions in the country, and we all thought, my God, this is great. This is going to produce great things. This is going to increase the popularity of the monarchy tenfold. And everyone was prepared to give her a chance because she sounded, in that interview, remember she did after the engagement, and I'm thinking, my God, smart woman, Up until then, Harry's girls had all been the horsey set and they'd all been a bit jawed and a bit, the kind you'd expect to meet in the horsey set. This was a different kind of woman. This was one who was her own woman and who was fairly wealthy in her own right and had opinions and had opinions on things that we all care about, what is happening in the world, the poverty-stricken parts of the world, who was promising to do great things. And we all thought, oh my God, this is incredible, it's incredible. But then a few months in, we all have contacts. We started hearing the stories from Buckingham Palace about how she was bullying people, how she was demanding, how she wanted things she wasn't entitled to. There was one thing she was going. When she was getting married, she wanted the run of the jewellery. She wanted to be able to pick any of the tiaras that she wanted to wear. Well, no, the Queen made it quite clear she could not do that. And Harry was kind of saying she should have her choice of everything, and the Queen was going, well, no, she shouldn't. That privilege was not afforded to Kate until many years later when she'd been married for a long time and done a lot of work for the royal family as well. But Meghan, the stories were that she bossed the staff around, she was demanding. Nothing was ever enough for this woman. And this was the problem. She comes into the royal family. which bent over backwards for her, it has to be said. You know, they had never been as welcoming to any fiancé, not even to Kate, you know. They did bend over backwards for her because they saw the potential of Meghan as well. And she just threw it back in their face. Whatever they gave, she wanted more. And that hacked the royal family off a bit. But still, they kept on trying. And even when her and Harry were trashing them in the Oprah interviews, the royal family, I thought, were incredibly noble about it all. You know, I know people say, oh, they have this thing, never complain, never explain. But it was more than that. They weren't going to get involved in the fray. And they could have done her and Harry so much damage. And they didn't. They chose not to. And I'm sure Charles, to this day, thinks that was a good decision. I'm not entirely sure it was. But, you know, we heard the stories about how Meghan told Oprah that Kate had made her cry, and Buckingham Palace, it was over the choice of the bridesmaid's dress for the wedding, Charlotte's dress. But in reality, the royal family in Buckingham Palace said it was the other way around. Meghan had made Kate cry.
The statement was something like, recollections may vary or something along those lines.
And the implication was clear. And you know, we heard from all our sources that it was Meghan who'd made Kate cry. Now, you know, who of those two women do I believe? It's a no-brainer for most of us.
Yeah. I mean, there's not a lot to trust Meghan on, is there? No. Going back to those stories of Meghan's behaviour in the palace, this one really kind of shocked me, actually. Apparently, when she was Duchess, she was interviewing staff.
Yes.
Apparently, in one instance, there was this 20-something-year-old girl stood in front of her, waiting for her interview, basically job interview. Terrified, probably. I mean, you think about it, you're a 20-something-year-old, stood in front of a Duchess. Meghan, the entire time, this girl is ushered into the room, and Meghan is just sat there, looking at her papers, like your papers, and just doing that, looking down at her papers, scribbling. There's not acknowledging this girl. And then she just looks up after minutes of silence, this girl sort of squirming, and goes, simply looks up at her and says, "You can go now." No. I mean, how cruel.
If true, that is horrific. It shows she has zero empathy with people, that everything we see from her is performative. Because, you know, when there's a tragedy or a disaster, Meghan is always there. She always gets herself there, and she's always seen to be holding the hands of children and cuddling people and being empathetic. If that's true, that shows that's just her acting. And, you know, I think a lot of us have always thought that was the case anyway. You know, there was, I mean, I was going to tell a story, but I can't, because I can't back it up. But it was, I can't.
That's fine on this show. Go for it.
I believe the person who told me the story. But you know, anyway, it involves her children, so I better not. But I think she's a horrendous woman. I think, you know, the bullying stuff that was coming out of the palace, there was too much of it for it to be a coincidence. Look at the turnover of staff they had. Yeah. Massive turnover of staff. They go to America, exactly the same thing is happening. No one stays with them for longer than 6 months. They just can't stand it because of her, I suspect, more than him. But because he was, I don't know if he still is, slavishly mad in love with her, he was always on her side. But I think when you have people like that, you know, it's good for them not to have people who grovel to them and just do what they want. It's good for, if you're someone's partner who's behaving like that, you say, hey, stop that you're out of order there. Don't do that. Yeah. You know, if I'm out of order, anytime, anywhere, my husband will be the first person to say, you shouldn't have said that.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
Or you embarrassed that person, or you said something that they're a little bit uncomfortable with. And when he tells me that, I go and sort it. Because, not always your best filter, but I think she has no filter at all. I think all Meghan cares about is Meghan. And she wouldn't, the fact she didn't realise that a 20-year-old girl would have, A, dreamed about meeting her and being in her presence, 2, would have been terrified that she actually was in her presence, and 3, not understanding what her dismissal of her would have done to that young woman. It's beyond disgusting.
It reeks a bit of forgetting where you came from as well. So I suppose the whole backstory of Meghan is, you know, she's a working girl, done good.
Yes. poverty-stricken background. But actually, she always tells that story, but she wasn't poverty-stricken at all, was she? I mean, she was working class, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But her father worked in the movies. He was he a sound engineer?
Yeah, it's sound, basically
sound or lighting or something.
So they would have had okay money, but not fantastic.
He had enough okay money to send her to a decent school, which he did for her. And that's why, and the other thing that says a lot about her character is even now, her father is old. He's disabled. I think he had half of one of his legs chopped off because he was very ill. She didn't even go and see him. Yeah. The fact that you can abandon a parent who devoted much of their life to bringing you up and who paid for your education and who clearly adores you, the fact that you can turn your back on someone like that. And I think she turned her back on him because he didn't fit the new image, did he? Lots of her previous boyfriends have said that Meghan was very concerned about image and very concerned about the status of the people she went out with. Now, the fact that she was marrying into British royalty, maybe old Thomas Markle just didn't fit the mould.
Well, he's a man with a real job, right? He's a technical guy on film sets, probably a bit rough around the edges, sort of like our producer Dan Dove, really.
Yeah, exactly.
And they've decided that
he's over there. Careful, because he can edit you to be even worse than you already are.
Yeah, and she's sort of clearly decided I don't want that to be part of my image anymore, which is, disgraceful.
It is, because whatever, even if you've fallen out with a parent, I mean, I think the longest fight I ever had with my mother was like for half a day, and it killed me that we didn't speak. And she rang me and said, let's not ever do that again. No. Because when you love your parents, because anything could happen to them at any time. Thomas Markle could die tomorrow and we'll never have heard from his daughter for the past 5, 6, 7 years. It's a disgrace. That tells me a lot. I think the way people treat their parents tells me a lot about them. And look at interesting, isn't it, that she had disassociated herself from her siblings because they're too common for her too. And hey presto, Harry has done the same. Now, who might have encouraged him to do all of that, I wonder? Yeah,
quite. Well, thank you. That's all we've got time for today.
Thank you. It was nice to see you. Got a suit on
I've got a message from Dan to wrap up. So it's our fabled producer we mentioned earlier, the rough around the edges guy.
He's not rough around the edges. You're in so much trouble.
Well, look, Carole, thank you again for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. Fantastic as ever. Thank you for watching. Again, like we said earlier, really appreciate you guys. Biggest news podcast on YouTube in the UK now.
Yay.
Amazing. Fantastic. Look, thanks so much for your support. If you haven't already, and I know a lot of you haven't, hit the subscribe button. You'll never miss an episode. You never miss Carole. You never miss Esther.
You might just put him off there. But anyway.
Oh, dear. Well, never mind. Well, look, forget about that. Hit the hype button. Hit like. Share it with your friends. Great. Look, until next time. See ya. Bye-bye.
Right, a quick pause in the podcast to tell you about our sponsor, Incogni. You had those phone calls from numbers you don't recognise, or you go in your inbox and there's emails for stuff you did not sign up for. Well, that's because someone somewhere is selling your private information. That's where today's sponsor comes in, Incogni. They will contact these people who have been taking your information and they'll say, oi, stop, delete it. Go to the website, incogni.com, you type in the details, 2 minutes later, Incogni are sorting it out for you automatically. And because I love you, I've got you a discount. It ain't 10%, it ain't 20%, 60% off. 60% off an annual Incogni plan. Just go to incogni.com/Daily Expresso or click the link in the episode description box below.